The Dacia Sandero retains its position as the UK's cheapest car, yet has undergone something of a transformation. Smarter looking, more refined and even roomier, it now says outstanding value, far more than low cost. This bargain-priced, larger-than-average Super Mini is far less compromised than before, and now a worthy alternative to cars such as the Fiesta and the Polo.
Built on a contemporary structure that's closely related to that of the current rather than previous generation Renault Clio, the Sandero is now a much nicer car to drive than previously. While it still majors on ride comfort, its body movements are much better controlled and the car wanders far less over larger bumps. There's also more grip than before thanks to the wider tracks, lower stance and a fresh front axle. Now electric, the steering remains light and still doesn't offer any meaningful feedback, but it's precise and predictable enough for everyday driving, and the turning circle is usefully tight at 10.5 metres. The engines are all reasonably simple 1 litre 3-cylinder units offered with or without a turbocharger, running either petrol or a combination of petrol and LPG. The entry-level unit, the SCE65, now only produces 65 horsepower, 95 newton-metres and delivers little in the way of acceleration. The turbocharged TCE90 and bi-fuel TCE100 are much more effective. Our test car has the TCE90 engine with a useful 90 horsepower and 160 newton-metres, which, despite the extra power, offers the same WLTP-rated efficiency as the entry-level engine at 53.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 120 grams per kilometre of CO2. Acceleration is acceptable, with 0 to 62 miles an hour taking 11.7 seconds, and the gearbox has 6 speeds. You only get 5 in the SCE65 variant. Or you can have a CVT Auto with the turbo petrol engine. All the power plants on offer have that slightly offbeat feel that's unique to 3-cylinder engines. The more modern underpinnings of this Sandero makes it a noticeably quieter car than before, which emphasises its improved refinement. The result is a Super Mini that often feels like a car from the next class up, which is not bad, considering that it's priced alongside cars from the next class down. A single glance is all that's needed to see that this third generation Sandero is a different proposition to its predecessor. While it's the same length as the previous generation model, it's wider and lower, giving it a completely different stance. For the first time, the exterior styling's attributed to a designer, Erd Tunga, rather than a styling centre, suggesting it's been given greater precedent this time around. To our eyes, it's more contemporary and more interesting. But of course, everyone has their own opinion. So, a smarter look outside, but what about the cabin? Well, our Comfort model's keyless entry system has automatically unlocked the door for us, so let's take a look inside. The cabins of previous Sandero models had something of the feel of a Bulgarian thrift store. You were certainly never in doubt about how little you'd paid, and neither were your passengers. In contrast, what's served up here is far more welcoming and warmer feeling, with greater sophistication thanks to a pleasing combination of materials and more contemporary looking dials and controls. If you're moving into a Sandero from something like a Fiesta, some of the materials will still feel pretty hard, but the car now feels like it wraps around its front seat occupants with a wider centre console that's angled slightly towards the driver. On mid-range comfort spec models such as this one, you get a built-in 8-inch screen perched on top of the dashboard, which provides built-in navigation and offers up an attached phone cradle, reminding you to pair your handset with the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring systems. Visibility is very good, with reasonably thin A-pillars and a deep glass house, so the view behind and over the shoulder is generally unimpeded, despite the black surround of the shallow rear window and the thick rear pillars. The white on black instrument gauges are simple but quite elegant, while the electric window switches are now on the driver's door armrest, a much more logical position. The interior is lifted by cross-hatched fabric trim across the centre of the dash, on the door armrests and on the upper part of the seat backrests. And getting comfortable is much less of a challenge than before, thanks to the addition of reach adjustment for the steering wheel. Storage is also decent, with 21 litres of it dotted about the cabin. Right, let's take a look at the rear, where we're hoping to find more legroom than before, thanks to this Mark III model's slightly stretched wheelbase, which is longer than those of similar size Super Minis. However, will this third generation design's slight reduction in height mean that taller passengers suffer? Well, let's find out. Headroom turns out to be decent, though is no longer class leading, now equalled or bettered by other cars of similar size such as the MG3 and the Ford Fiesta. The seats themselves, though, are nicely contoured and supportive, including the middle seat. Finally, let's take a look at the boot, which is one of the larger ones in the class, offering 328 litres below the parcel shelf. Like most luggage compartments in Super Minis, it's fairly short but usefully wide and deep, capable of carrying around 6 carry-on cases. The 1,108 litres of capacity, with all rear seats folded down, is competitive for this segment, comfortably beating the 947 litres of the Toyota Yaris, and not far behind the Renault Clio and Seat Ibiza. It's pleasing to see that Dacia has managed to update the Sandero without losing sight of the primary reason that this model has been successful, a price that's lower than any other new model on the market. Whatever variant you choose, you should find that the Sandero makes great use of its now more up-to-date foundations. It now looks and feels like a contemporary model rather than a rehash of an older design, which is a huge leap forward. As a result, you might well feel that what's being delivered here is low-cost transportation with a twist of style, a car with a look and feel that shouts great value rather than on a budget. In summary, this is a model that deserves to be on more shortlists than before. Yes, products from the established market players are still more sophisticated, they drive better and they feel more sophisticated inside. But the gap isn't huge, except of course when it comes to what you have to pay.